And you welcome into today's programme. The last Monday, you might remember, Accenture indeed announced on Monday plans to cut 890 jobs from its Irish operation. Now, this announcement follows on from previous cuts of nearly 400 jobs last April and brings the total number of the proposed job losses to €1,300 in Ireland. It's quite a significant figure. The Financial Services Union and the Communication Workers Union have issued a joint statement on this and calling on Accenture to basically explain why they are aggressively targeting the Irish operation for redundancies. I'm joined on the line by John O'Connell, who's the General Secretary of the Financial Services Union, and he joins me on the line. John, good morning to you.
Good morning, and thank you for having us on.
Thanks for joining us today to try and untangle this with me today. It's a huge amount of jobs in a very short space of time.
Incredible amount of jobs, really. Last March, Accenture announced global job cuts in the region of 19,000, and that's in a workforce of 700,000. So it's, a massive workforce. And they announced it, and they said there was going to be 2.5% of a headcount reduction worldwide. And if that was applied to the 6,000 staff in Ireland, that would have been, shocking in itself. But it would only have been a fraction of the jobs that have been announced, both back in March, the 400 that you mentioned, and the 890 that have now been announced in the last few days.
So why pick on Ireland like this then? If this is a global, they are employing a huge amount of people.
Yeah, and I suppose that's the first thing we want to understand is why so disproportionately against Ireland. And we've written to the CEO, Hilary O'Meara, to ask her and get an explanation in the first instance for the workforce, her workforce, to understand why is it falling so heavily on the Irish operation.
And are they talking to you or any union?
Well, not at the moment. We've written to them and we expect that they will talk to us. But they don't have good track record worldwide in terms of talking to trade unions. But that doesn't stop us raising these concerns on behalf of our members and the CWU members who are also part of the workforce in Accenture. And we think, look, most reasonable employers talk to us, particularly at times of crisis. And we expect that Accenture, who puts themselves out there in the market of promoting excellence in consultancy services and other services, to offer excellence in terms of industrial relations and to talk to the workforce and to talk to the people that represent their workforce.
No, they don't have to talk to you. They can just deal directly with the workforce. It would make more sense to talk to a representative body like yourselves or the Communication
we have a
Workers
lot
Union.
of experience of dealing with change, and we have an excellent track record, both trade unions in terms of dealing with change. A lot of it technology driven for the CWU and for ourselves in the finance sector, in the postal and telecom sector. So we have a lot of experience of dealing with change, of people transitioning out of roles, but also of supporting people. And this is something that really has upset people, is the fact that Accenture, when they made the announcement last week, were still advertising for roles in Dublin, in a number of areas, significant numbers of roles. And we can't understand in those circumstances how they can't offer a retraining program for people who could be covered under the redundancy program when they're actively recruiting in the market.
Can I ask you, what facilities do they use in Ireland? Are they finance? Are they recruitment? Are they IT? What are the majority of employees of Accenture in Ireland? What's their function? And the reason I'm asking that question is, are they hiving off IT rather than something else?
They offer global operations and they also do moderation services. So they have a wide range of consultancy services, finance and so forth. As I said, 700,000 people employed worldwide. So it is a really huge organisation, and 6,000 is a significant number in Ireland as well. So it's spread across various areas in terms of global operations, moderators, finance, HR, all the usual consultancy services you'd expect.
But 1,300 as against the 6,000 here in Ireland, that's a large percentage, so it is, of the workforce.
It's savage.
As against the 2.3% that you were talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, it's a savage amount of people out of that amount of people. So again, 2.5% of a worldwide cut in jobs is what was announced. But when that comes to Ireland, it seems to be much more disproportionately hitting a workforce of 6,000 with 1,300 redundancies.
Okay, are they represented by IBEC? Or I mean, is there anybody representing Accenture, or are they just not talking?
Well, at the moment, we've written to them. We're waiting a response. We expect, out of sheer courtesy, that we'll get a response. We're also looking to meet with the Minister and with Enterprise Ireland, because if these job losses were announced in a town down the country, there would be an outcry in terms of 1,300 redundancies. And so we believe that, first of all, if redundancies have to occur, they should be on a voluntary basis. And equally, as I said, they need to explain to us, if they're advertising jobs, why can't they, reskill people to take up those roles?
Well, you have to find out also why the large percentage in Ireland and not elsewhere.
Yes, that's our first question that we have posed to them to explain, and we said it publicly. Why is it so disproportionate to Ireland? And I think, given the support that they have been given, they're a worldwide multinational, they need to answer that question. People need to know why, the why of that. People understood that there was curtailments occurring in the sectors back in March, and I suppose took it on the chin and worked through that in terms of those 400 redundancies. But when you go through an approach like that, you expect that, having taken the pain, that consolidation occurs and you go forward and start to grow again, or at least maintain where you are. For the second wave to come is where people are really shocked because they didn't expect it.
And when you say incentive, I mean, what type of incentive have they been given to Location Ireland?
Well, I presume if Enterprise Ireland is involved, they would get the normal incentives to create employment, which is very good for Ireland, which we obviously support and so forth. But equally, if you take it on the upside, on the downside, you then have to act responsibly and act in accordance with good practice. And good practice is talking to your workforce, talking to their representatives, and working out the least painful way of achieving the change that they require. And rather than just go on a numbers game and let's get the numbers down, there's approach, and we have a lot of experience. Both unions have a lot of experience in terms of change and transition and reskilling and saving jobs effectively. And so they should put as much effort into that side of it as they do into the redundancy and the number side of it.
And can I ask you, John, just the 890 people which were announced last Monday, have they been identified, and do they know?
No, they have to go through a consultation process, which I understand is starting in September. So we have a little window of time in which to get things right and that people are treated with respect and dignity in the process. So they go through a 30-day consultation process, and then they notify people who are at risk of redundancy. And what has worked really well for us in different sectors and different areas is the voluntary-led approach, where you are at a certain point in your career cycle where you want to move on. And I'm at a stage where I've mortgage or college for kids and so forth, and I want to stay. And that we're facilitated, that you may be let go and I be retained. And that has worked really, really well for us in other organisations where change is afoot and redundancies have occurred. Voluntary-led approach and that puts people first.
Yeah, it's a common sense approach. I see Sean McDonough, a good, strong Galway man, who's from the Communication Workers Union, working with you on this one. And to be honest, he's had many a battle on his hands, but he's always come out. He's always come out with a conclusion. Whereas here, you're waiting to meet the company, so there can be no conclusion or no until the company start talking to you.
Yeah, but I think the company, and I agree with you in regards to Sean, a very strong Galway man, but also a very pragmatic individual in terms of change. And we have that in common. And so I think the next people to be pragmatic need to be Accenture. They need to sit down with us, have a mature conversation on behalf of their workforce, and try and work through what is clearly a traumatic event for the workforce, where those kind of numbers are being visited on them, and that people are assured that they have a voice and that their voice will be heard. We understand change, we're both operating in sectors that there's massive change. So we understand change, but we also know how to do it right. And just crunching numbers and getting people out the door is not the way it should be done.
John O'Connell, thank you indeed for joining us, General Secretary of the Financial Service Union. Thank you for joining us today.